Sorry, are we streaming, Jacob?
Yes, you're live.
All right, I will call the meeting to order and I'll look for roll call from my clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Welcome to the April 15th Special Council meeting. I'm Jennifer Connor, Clerk of Ramara Township. I'll begin with roll call of council. Mayor Clark.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Bell.
Present.
Councillor Snatch.
Present.
Councillor Fisher.
Present.
Councillor Tuyu. Present. And Councillor Bell has sent her regrets. Back to you, Your Worship.
Thank you. I'll look for a motion that the agenda dated April 15th, 2024 be adopted as presented. Moved by Deputy Mayor Bell, second by Councillor Snutch. Any questions on the agenda? All in favor? Oh, we got to do the streaming notice. Oh, hang on. We missed our...
Streamed live on the Township of Ramara YouTube channel. Be advised that by attending a public meeting of the Council of the Township of Ramara, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded and will form a part of the public record. The chair, CAO, and/or clerk have the discretion and authority to terminate or interrupt the live streaming in exceptional circumstances where the content of debate is considered inappropriate to be published. Thank you.
Okay, on the agenda, everybody in favor? That is carried. Do I have a disclosure of pecuniary interest? Any member of council? Didn't think so. And now I have the public meeting, which is 4.1 on the agenda. So now just a minute, we'll open our public meeting. Do I need a motion to open the public meeting, Jen? I don't think so. No, I don't. So is there a disclosure of pecuniary interest in the public meeting? Not seeing any because it's the only reason we're here. As required under the Planning Act and pursuant to council policy, council is holding a public meeting to deal with one planning proposal. Zoning bylaw amendment file Z7/22. Location 4836 Muley Point Road. Owner Highland Mills Development Inc. and the agent is Morgan Planning and Development Inc. Please be advised that if a person or public body that files an appeal of a decision of the Ramara Township Council in respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application does not make oral submissions at the public meeting, if applicable, or make written submissions to the Ramara Township Council before the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is adopted, the Ontario Land Tribunal may dismiss all or part of the appeal. The purpose of this meeting is to inform and provide the public and members of council with an opportunity to ask questions and express view with respect to the proposal. Council will consider all comments and submissions received, and staff will work with the applicants in an attempt to resolve the issues. Staff from the planning department are present and will be writing down your concerns. The clerk will now advise on the manner of giving notice and give an explanation of the proposal amendment.
Thank you, Your Worship. Notice of this public meeting for zoning bylaw amendment file Z-7/22 was circulated to all applicable agencies and mailed out to the property owners in the required area on March 11th, 2024. In accordance with provincial regulations, and a public meeting sign was posted on the property. The Fire Department, Ministry of Transportation, Simcoe County District School Board advised there was no concerns regarding the zoning bylaw amendment. A letter of concern was submitted on April 14th, 2024 from Joshua and Eduardo Conway of 4869 Muley Point Road. The proposal is site-specific to the lands legally described as Part Lot 24, Concessions 9 and 10, formerly in the Township of Ramara, now in the Township of Ramara, known municipally as 4836 Muley Point Road. The zoning bylaw amendment will have the effect of rezoning natural heritage features and their associated buffer zones as natural area protection. The amendment also prevents the establishment of multiple dwellings on the lots of the proposed subdivision. The amendment maintains the existing holding provisions.
Okay, thank you. And so we do have that letter on file then?
Yes, we do. Your
Perfect, good. Jennifer Stong, planner, will provide the background of the planning process to date.
Morning, everyone. Okay, so today we're meeting to discuss planning application file Z722, which is 4836 Muley Point Road. Get my screen to change for me. There we go. So the proposed amendment will have the effect of rezoning the natural heritage features and their respective buffer zones to natural area protection. And it will also preclude the development of multiple dwellings on the proposed plan of subdivision by zoning the properties as site-specific village residential special policy while maintaining the holding provision that currently exists on the lands. An application for draft plan of subdivision was received on the property in August of 2022 and is currently in its second review of its submission. The proposal includes 46 lots, which are individually serviced by wells and septic systems and are accessed by 2 internal streets, both of which intersect with Muley Point Road. Up on the screen before you is the draft plan of subdivision, which shows sort of street A and street B that kind of circle around. And then there's the 46 individual lots with blocks 47, 48, and 54 being subject to rezoning to natural area protection. So these are the drainage features and the natural heritage features that have been identified, including the McPhee Bay wetland. That have all been staked in consultation with the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority with their applicable buffer zones. Planning report BP 1024, which is included in today's agenda, provides a review of the application against each of the policy. The amendment will protect the natural heritage features and their associated buffer zones while ensuring the development proceeds in the manner that the studies support by removing the ability for multiple dwellings. This includes things like townhouses, semi-detached, and apartments. The sites that were submitted supported 46 individual single lots, so we wanted to make sure that the site isn't overdeveloped. The application is consistent and or does not conflict with all policies, including the PPS, growth plan, Lake Simcoe protection plan, County of Simcoe official plan, Township of Ramara official plan, and the Township of Ramara zoning bylaw. Circulation was sent out to all property owners within 120 meters of the property and the applicable agencies on March 11th, and the sign was posted on the property advising of the public meeting and where more information could be located. Comments received from agencies. Ministry of Transportation had no concerns with the zoning bylaw amendment, as well as the fire department. The County of Simcoe District School Board did submit planning applications for both the plan of subdivision and the zoning bylaw amendment at the same time. They are having the hydrogeological study peer reviewed for the plan of subdivision, but they did note that they had no concerns with the actual zoning bylaw. Although the applications are related, they are separate. So today we are just dealing with the zoning bylaw amendment. We did receive a submission from Joshua and Edwarda Conway from 4869 Muley Point Road. It was received last evening. It was a letter of concern and that it was titled Formal Opposition to the Proposed Draft Plan of Subdivision. This letter was also sent to council. The submission is 13 pages long, so instead of reading it, I was just going to kind of give a summary of what the concerns were that were raised. So the main subjects were environmental protection, including natural resources and groundwater supply, emergency preparedness and community safety concerns such as emergency response and the Bayshore water treatment system, transparency and environmental impact assessments, including community access to information, possible impacts to trails and active transportation, community engagement, and environmental sustainability. There were also concerns about infrastructure and service challenges, such as challenges maintaining and upgrading municipal infrastructure, financial sustainability, community impact on Ramara's character, and they noted asset management, increased traffic and infrastructure strain, more traffic, more road use, impact on wildlife, accessibility, development charges, financial impact on law enforcement and community safety, such as strain on the OPP services and strain on the township service standards, including customer service timelines and the use of assets, again, noting asset management. Preservation of community character, noting the rural character of the area, strategic planning, sustainable planning, community improvement, and the waterfront parking strategy. The main calls to action from the submission are an independent environmental impact assessment, integration of community in the council decision, a request for the delay of the approval, and open dialogue and timely communication. The submission also requests a formal response by April 30th. And although I can't guarantee a 2-week response due to the current workload, the comments have been forwarded to Josh Morgan's office, and the township will work with Josh Morgan's office to respond to any concerns through the review of the plan of subdivision, and it will be included in the planning report that's submitted for the plan of subdivision. As the application today is really about the zoning bylaw amendment, which is rezoning those natural heritage features in their applicable buffer zones, as well as excluding the development of multiple dwellings. So the concerns that were raised by the submission are really related to the draft plan approval for the plan of subdivision and are better assessed during that time, during council approval of the plan of subdivision. The zoning amendment, although related, is independent of the issues related to the ones that were received in the submission and would be more appropriately addressed through the actual plan of subdivision. So today the plan of subdivision is not being approved. This is kind of a step in the development to make sure that this development proceeds in accordance with the environmental impact study and the functional servicing report that were submitted and peer reviewed with the application. Okay, so the subdivision did include a multitude of studies, drawings, and reports, including a natural heritage evaluation or environmental impact study, archaeological assessment, hydrogeological assessment, traffic impact study, and planning justification report. So all these reports and studies were peer reviewed by subject matter experts consulted by the township, as well as township staff and agencies such as the Conservation Authority, the Simcoe County District School Board, and the Ministry of Transportation. So the draft amendment is in front of council up on the screen. It's kind of small, sorry. But basically it's showing the gray areas here are the areas that are proposed to be rezoned natural area protection, whereas on my screen, this part is pink, but it's lighter gray on yours, has the village residential with the special exception and the holding provision. So the holding provision is going to stay on the property. It will stay on the pieces that are not zoned natural area protection. It's maintained on the developable area until such time as all of the conditions in our official plan have been met, which includes the execution of the subdivision agreement and obviously the draft plan approval of the application. And this holding provision is maintained just to ensure that all those technical components of the subdivision and the development are accepted and approved before the construction can begin. So the next steps would be subject to any further comments received at today's meeting that the draft amendment included in the agenda package be forwarded to the May 27th council meeting for approval. Thank you.
Maybe I'll get you to clarify. What we're actually deciding today is we are going to lock in the natural area protection land, which
Yes.
wasn't recognized, and no duplexes and no fourplexes.
Yes,
is
that's
what's in front of
correct.
council today. Okay. So next I'll go to Joshua Morgan from Morgan Planning and Development, Inc. Presented online will now have an opportunity to add any further information. Good morning, Joshua.
Good morning, Mayor. How are you today?
Very good.
Everybody can hear me okay?
Loud and clear.
Okay, thank you very much. I do like to come to these meetings in person, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here virtually. I have an OLT hearing beginning in about an hour and a half, so I needed to stay in the office today. So thank you for that. And I have reviewed Mr. Conway's letter, which was, I think, submitted to the municipality last night. Took some time this morning to review it. So thank you also to Jennifer for her overview. I don't think I'm going to repeat. I'm going to try not to repeat really much that Jennifer has said. Just to put into context why we're here today. This application before you is a zoning bylaw amendment application. We are not here to, although I'm happy to speak to the draft plan of subdivision, the application presented to council today relates specifically to the zoning, not to the subdivision application. So perhaps I'll start just by explaining the background of the file. So we first pre-consulted on this subdivision application on August the 8th of 2019. That was, I would call that an informal pre-consultation, which was attended by representatives from the township, also the county and the Conservation Authority. So that was August of 2019, coming up on 5 years ago. We then had a formal pre-consultation meeting on May 5th of 2022, so just shy of 2 years ago. Between the informal pre-consultation and the formal pre-consultation, the ecologist, the consulting ecologist, Terra Story Environmental, met on site with representatives from the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority. And the reason for that site meeting, which was in August of 2021, was to walk the property with the ecologist, not only the private sector ecologist on behalf of the developer, but the Conservation Authority ecologist. The purpose of that site visit was to establish the limit of the natural heritage features. So it was to walk the site, and this is a common practice in the development world, where you have a consulting ecologist walking a property with the Conservation Authority, the purpose of which is to agree upon the limit of the environmental features. And during that site walk, not only do they flag the limit of the feature, they bring a surveyor with them. And so it's a very formal process. So that's a very important part of the process. That's where the ecologists on both sides of the file agree upon the line. Essentially, where is the developable area and where is the area that needs to be protected? So that occurred in August of 2021. Once that work was complete, we could really start sort of moving on the design of the subdivision, because that's the work that delineated the developable area from the undevelopable area. So I think if I may share my screen, Your Worship.
Jacob, is that possible?
Oh,
Yes.
thank you. Sorry, bear with me here. There we go. Okay. Can everybody see my PowerPoint presentation?
Yes, you're there now.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so everybody knows, I think, where the location of the property is. It's on the southwest corner of Highway 12 and Muley Point Road, immediately across the street from the Upper Grove Public School. And I'd just like to explain also, stemming from that formal pre-consultation meeting that we had on May the 5th of 2022, we then made our first submission on August the 9th of 2022. So you have the pre-con in May of 2022. That's the second pre-con after the site visit with the ecologist. And then we make our first submission on August the 9th of 2022. In that first submission, I'd like to list the documents that were submitted to the municipality and also to the county and also to the Conservation Authority. There was a planning justification report, which was prepared by my office. There was a draft plan of subdivision, which illustrates a 46-unit residential subdivision. There was a stage 1 and stage 2 archaeological assessment, the purpose of which is to assess the entire property for archaeological significance. There was an environmental impact study which was prepared, and that environmental impact study, the scope of it was determined through consultation with our environmental consultant and with the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority. There was a functional servicing and a stormwater management report, which included water balance assessments and total phosphorus removal calculations. There was a geotechnical report, so studying the suitability of the soils to actually be built upon. There was a hydrogeological assessment, which studied the quality and quantity of the water in the aquifer, because these lots will be serviced by private wells. And finally, there was a traffic impact brief. So there was an incredible amount of technical information that was submitted at that first submission in August of 2022. We then waited probably close to, I don't remember if it was 8 months or 12 months, to receive a full suite of comments back from the municipality. And we made our second submission, so responding to the comments received from the township, the county, the Conservation Authority. We made our second submission in February of 2024, which is why we're here before you today. So just to give a larger perspective of where the subject property is, you'll see the city of Orillia off to the west. This property, as I believe Jennifer mentioned, is within the Atherley Upper Grove settlement area. Being within the settlement area, as members of council will know, is critical from a development perspective. If you're within the settlement area, the policies support the development of commercial uses, institutional uses, residential uses. If you're outside of the settlement area, the policies for those to develop those uses are much more difficult. In other words, you have to be inside the settlement area in order to justify a subdivision like this. This property is located within the Atherley Upper Grove settlement area. So as Jen noted, the subject property is currently zoned village residential, village commercial, and village institutional with a hold on it. And there's a small portion of the property at the south that is zoned natural area protection, which is essentially Ramara's environmental protection zone. An application for a draft plan of subdivision for 46 privately serviced residential lots, as I mentioned, was submitted in August of 2022, and the second submission is currently under review. This zoning bylaw amendment seeks to revise the boundaries of the natural area protection as a result of the environmental impact study undertaken by TerraStory, and that's in accordance with the site visit with the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority. It also proposes, as Jennifer mentioned, to remove multiple dwellings from the list of permitted uses on the property. The reason for that is because we know that provincial policy now encourages municipalities to allow for higher densities of development in their settlement areas. The challenge with the Atherley Upper Grove settlement area, of course, I'm going to take us off screen share. the challenge with the Atherley Updergrove settlement area from a multiple dwelling perspective is that there are no services there, as you know. So it isn't appropriate to have a 46 lot residential subdivision with triplexes and fourplexes. It's just not reasonable from the perspective of private services. So this application is seeking to expand the area on the property that is zoned natural area protection. There's just a small parcel now which is zoned natural area protection. As a result of this application, the NAP zone will be expanded to reflect the site visit between our ecologist and the Conservation Authority. The zoning bylaw amendment will also prohibit multiple dwellings on these lots, as I mentioned, because they are privately serviced. So I think I'll leave my comments there for now. I assume that Mr. Conway will likely have questions, and I'm happy to answer those questions if council wishes for me to do so. I think just to conclude, because this property is located within a settlement area, it is fully supported by the policies of the provincial policy statement. It is fully supported by the policies of the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. It is supported by the settlement area policies of the County of Simcoe's official plan and the Township of Ramara's official plan. And we've been at this for nearly 5 years. I think we've done a very good job of providing a comprehensive package of documents. And we're getting to the finish line of the review of those documents. So we're asking you, council, to approve this zoning bylaw amendment application to expand the natural area protection on the property and to prohibit multiple dwellings. This actually provides sort of a more strict zoning on the property than the one that exists right now. I'd be happy to answer any of your questions, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Joshua. I think that's what people don't realize is this land was zoned for development 20 years ago on the official plan in 2003. I believe from Muley Point Road all the way to the city of Aurelia, everything south of Highway 12 is zoned residential. And there's 2 or 3 farms that are within that are zoned residential. And there's even a few on the north side, but it isn't until you get closer to Atherley that those ones come into effect. So now I have no request received online, but I do have some folks here for the public meeting that if they want to speak, it is a public meeting. So please put your hand up and I'll bring you up to the microphone. I'll need your name and address. Donald, lead us off. Come on up here to the, there's a mic right here. It's live, is it not? Yeah. So there's a button in the center, Donald, and just pull it up so the folks at home can hear you. Oh, there is one online now. Good. We have somebody on.
That it? Okay. What would you like to know? You want to know my name and address, or?
Name and address for the record, and then your comments, sir.
Okay, Donald R. McDonald, the 1908 Concession 10, Ramara. So my comments. Hey, folks, we're missing the boat. There should be a big canal all the way from Lake Simcoe up to Highway 12, another lagoon city. Yeah, let's back up a little bit in history. Natural area. Oh my goodness. Yeah, the Conservation Authority was up and walked it, and yeah. Meanwhile, there's a farmer in the township that Conservation Authority decided it's a wetland area supposedly, and they got the OPP Gestapo to go in and what do you call it? Anyways, to do a location on it all, and they charge the farmer. Bad case of the discrimination by the Conservation Authority. Here, talk about natural area. You have all the organic soil in the part next to the highway there. There's a considerable amount. It's underwater right now, despite being tile drained. It took a number of years, probably 3-4 years, to get rid of all the bulrushes that were in there, because they don't kill easily, to make it into supposedly farmland. So anyway, on it goes. So here we are getting the wool pulled over our eyes as far as environmental concerns. I have other environmental concerns. These houses that's going to be built there, are they going to all have solar panels on the roof? You're going to restrict the use of salt going into the lake on the roads or laneways? Yes. What about all this? How are you going to have it that the houses aren't sitting in the water? How much is it going to, what's it going to take to bring the land up? Well, I guess if you did put a big canal in there so that they could have the boats in there, then you'd have the soil out of the big canal, and that would help to raise it up so that the houses wouldn't be in the swamp as such. So it did a good job. Yes, what a good job. What a lousy job, in my opinion.
So you disagree with the study done by the Conservation Authority identifying the
Pardon?
you disagree with where the wetlands being identified?
I disagree that we
All
go
right.
back up in history, and that was quite a wetland. There was a lot of bulrushes in there at one time, and this is like putting houses in a swamp. I guess it's not impossible to fill it in and do that, but in my opinion, that old railway track should be a dividing line and this not be part of the development area. But when you take a big picture and look at the big picture of the township and whatnot, we have a mishmash of development going on in Atherley and Upper Grove. No sewers and water. And anyways, my opinion is the city of Aurelia should annex everything south of Highway 12 over to this proposed development, and that be put in the city of Aurelia, because it's just a mishmash, a little bit here and a little bit there. This development that's taken place, the developers are long gone. Who's going to be paying for all the servicing of this in the future when it was something like the Washego development that took place a number of years ago? Very, very costly for the province. And the developers are all long gone, and they made their money. But it's called vested interest land use planning. That's what it is. So anyways, but I'm just a bit shocked at the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority agreeing to this to be wetland to be developed, in my opinion, and the discrimination against the farmer that took place by them. It's unreal what goes on. Yes, and then it's just unreal.
Okay.
I'm shocked.
Okay. Thank you for your comment, sir.
Anyway, that's the thing, and I'm opposed to it. And yes, I live at 1908, and the developers can come and get me and execute me, and then they got dead men don't talk.
I can assure you that's not going to happen. And
Anyways,
Josh
I'm
certainly
aware
is
of something
professional.
like that happened down in Toronto in
But
land use planning.
Not going to happen here, sir. Everybody,
maybe,
we
who
respect our
knows?
neighbors here.
Anyways, thank you. And yes, it's anyway, and there's other discrimination against farmers in this township. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, folks here? We have one online, then I'll go to it and then I'll come back if anybody. Oh, yes, come on up. Did you have your hand up? Yeah, he's online. We're going to get him here. He's coming on now, I hope. As soon as you're ready, Joshua. I don't see you yet, but we'll get you into the window here.
Hi, sorry, I'm unable to, oh, there we go. I can start my video.
We can hear you loud and clear. There you are. Go ahead, Joshua.
Hi, good morning, esteemed council members and Mayor. It's good to see you all. Hi, I submitted the opposition letter to the draft proposal. I agree with the comments thus far. My concerns weren't necessarily around the bylaw amendment. I do think adding greater area coverage in terms of the natural area protection is a good move. And I think if that's the line of thinking that we're going to go down in terms of enhancing those areas, then I think perhaps another kind of review and assessment. I'd be interested to see some of the documents that Joshua Morgan had spoke to in terms of the studies done already to date and the confirmations of the authorities in terms of the proposal. However, I just caution, as similar to the other concerned citizen resident, in terms of doing it right. If we're going to proceed with this plan and moving it forward, and essentially there's nothing we can do to halt it, I think delaying caution so that the planning is done right and it lowers the impact to our services, to the township, to the cost that ends up being downloaded to the residents of the township down the road. And I'd be interested to see in the formal reply to the letter how the township plans to respond to some of the concerns listed. I thank you for the opportunity to speak today and looking forward to hearing from you all.
Thank you. Jennifer, go ahead.
Yeah, just a note, Joshua, if you email planning@ramara.ca, we can send you any of the studies that you would like to see.
Awesome. Thank you, Jennifer. We'll follow up.
Thank you. Good to see you in person. Well, see your face anyway after reading the email. Any other questions or comments? So I will open the floor to council now for any comments from council. Councilor, to you.
I just have a question as to how, I mean, I think it's great that the natural area protection zone is being protected and prioritized, but I'd just like to know what was the justification in rezoning it? That was there an element of species at risk or provincially significant wetland in there, or what was the thinking?
Go ahead, Joshua.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. And thank you for the question. Is it Councillor to you?
Yes.
Okay, thanks for the question. Yeah. So at the south end of the property, the very southern sort of corner, it comes almost into a triangular shape. That is a provincially significant wetland. It's called the McPhee Bay Provincially Significant Wetland. And there's like we call it like an intermittent drainage course, which comes to the middle of the property. So basically like feeds that wetland. So it's important to protect the intermittent water course that feeds into the wetland. So we protect that by expanding the NAP zone. So I guess it's a bit of a two-phased answer to your question. The first part of my answer to you is part of the NAP zone protects a provincially significant wetland, and the other part, the more northern sort of stretch that goes up to the highway, that protects a water course that feeds into the wetland. That is not a provincially significant wetland, but it feeds into that wetland.
Thank
Dana?
you.
That's it. Any other? Councillor Snodge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So the land that's going to be rezoned to natural area protection, that ownership of that specific land is going to remain in the hands of the developer. And does it stay there forever, or does it eventually get turned over to the township? What's to stop them from trying to get a zoning on the natural area protection down the road that eliminates it? Like, who owns the land that's there, and will it be owned by the developer, owned by the people who buy the house and they just happen to have a natural area protection in their backyard, or will it be owned by the township?
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, Josh. Thanks, Councillor Slutch. That's a really good question. It's one that we've talked about with township staff throughout this process. So currently, the way that the draft plan of subdivision has been designed is, and this is the typical way that it would occur. So the natural area protection area is proposed to be owned by the municipality, because when the subdivision is ultimately approved, the road network, they will become municipal roads. So Road A and Road B will be constructed by the developer, and ultimately they will be conveyed to the ownership of the Township of Ramara. So our proposal is that together with the conveyance of the roads comes the conveyance of those water features, which means they will be protected in perpetuity by the township, not only through the zoning bylaw, but also through ownership. And that is actually the preferable way in the view of the Conservation Authority, because the Conservation Authority doesn't want these natural area, these EP areas. They don't want them to be sort of almost like subdivided into little bits and pieces, because it's hard for them to control that, right? Like imagine if you've got 7 lots that back onto an EP area and include EP on each private lot. Well, what's to stop the private lot owner from, cutting down all the trees and mowing their lawn? Sure, there's a zoning bylaw, but I mean, realistically, 10 years down the road, if they're privately owned, then there's just more risk that that area will be sort of tampered with and will be injured, let's say.
So
I
I like
hope
to
that
see
helps.
the fact that it's turned over. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, so can this be conditional on that? I don't know how that would work, but I mean, like,
It's actually within the subdivision conditions. So it's,
but they haven't been approved yet.
no, but no development will be approved at all until the subdivision is approved.
So Councillor Snatch, if I can answer that question from a procedural perspective. So what we're asking you to do as council is to approve the zoning bylaw amendment, but to keep the holding provision on the zoning. So that hold that will stay on the zoning will not be lifted until the township and my client both sign the subdivision agreement. So that subdivision agreement will stipulate who owns which blocks and parts of the draft plan. So your zoning, I hope, will be approved with a hold. The hold protects you, the municipality, to make sure that the ownership lands in the way you want it to be land. That the ownership is placed in the way that you want the ownership to be placed.
Yeah, the problem with that is that hold may not come off until another couple of years. We may have different council then, different staff here, and I'm interested in making sure that it's absolutely protected and nobody else can change those plans. So I don't know if there's a solution out there for that or not.
If I may, so the solution first is to protect the land through NAP zoning, right? That's what we're seeking to do here. First, we have to protect it through the zoning bylaw. That's the decision we're asking you to make today, right? But if we were to follow your train of thought there, Councillor Snatch, I think what you're saying is, hey, can you guys just convey us all of that land right now? We can't convey that land to you right now until the subdivision is approved, because until the subdivision is approved, we haven't compartmentalized, we haven't split up the parcel into, 48 different pieces. We can't convey something that doesn't exist yet. So the draft plan of subdivision process seeks to break up the property into 46 residential lots and then 2 roads and then an NAP area. Once the draft plan of subdivision has been approved, then we can actually convey land to the municipality. We can't convey something that doesn't exist.
No, but you could make a commitment to make sure, absolutely ensure that once that's all finished, that it's done, and there's no way that this could be overturned down the road. I'm not really worried about. I'm just worried how things get changed all the time, and here we are putting one foot out there, saying we hope to get the other foot out there later on, and it looks like you could trip along the way.
This is how the development process works. First, we zone it, then we subdivide it and convey it at the same time. I've never seen it happen in any other way.
I guess what could theoretically happen is all of a sudden the subdivider could say, forget it, and I'm not developing at all, but at least we've locked in the natural area protection today. So it would just stay in a farmer's name or whoever owns the land, but at least we're now identifying and locking in, this is natural area protection, and it's a lot harder to change it out of that than it is to put it into it. Yeah. So I hear what you're saying, Dave. We want to make sure when it's turned over, that land goes to municipality, and Joshua is agreeing, because you don't want it subdivided on every individual lot, or it will just shrink as people cut their lawns. So
one more question. The width of that natural area protection was sort of hard to envision how wide it is. That strip that's coming through on that natural area protection, how wide is that?
Good question through you, Mayor, to Councillor Snatch. So it changes in its width. I'm looking at my screen now. So where it crosses the road is about 35 meters wide. Where that intermittent water course, that NAP land touches Highway 12, it's 38 meters wide. And then it starts to widen as it gets closer to the provincially significant wetlands. So it's not like a road where a road is always 20 meters wide. It changes based upon the site visit with the Conservation Authority. It depends on the land itself.
Yeah, I get it. Well, I guess I know it won't be consistent, but that's the information I needed. So thank you very much.
Yeah. So block 47 would be the part we're talking about. That would end up part of the township, correct?
It would be block 47.
Yeah.
Block 48.
Yep.
And block 54.
Yes. Okay, Councillor you had another question.
Yeah, I know this past year we've had some changes to the Environmental Assessment Act, and I think the decision notices have come through for the class and comprehensive in terms of modernization and streamlining. I'm just wondering if would this development be subject to those changes, or because would it with the previous the way it was before, would that apply because it was in the works at that time?
Go ahead, Joshua.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So to your question, anything that is approved has to be approved based upon the policies and the legislation that's in place on the day of the approval. So we have, as I mentioned earlier in my presentation, we made our second submission just in February of 2024. So our second submission was up to date with all of the policies and legislation as of Feb 2024. And that submission is currently under review by the Township and the Conservation Authority, who will be reviewing our submission under the guise of the rules that are in place today.
Go ahead.
More. So would the presence then of the natural area protection zone give justification to, I guess, a more stringent EA, or just by virtue of the fact that it is the provincially significant wetland?
Go ahead,
So we're stepping a little bit outside of the realm of my expertise, but I think that I don't believe that the Environmental Assessment Act I do not believe that the Environmental Assessment Act relates to the ecology. I don't know honestly what changes came into place. That's just not my area, but that's why we have a geotechnical engineer on the project, a hydrogeologist on the project, and an ecologist. So their jobs are to understand the change in legislation. We then make the submission to the township and to their peer reviewers, including the Conservation Authority, who have to review what we submit through the lens of the most up-to-date policies and legislation.
Follow up. Yep.
Thank you. And then the last question is, I guess, between the properties and the actual NAP zoned areas, is there going to be any kind of buffer? I just have concerns about, for example, I know a lot of residents who back onto a ravine or something, or there's a, natural area across the road. I tend to see a lot of yard waste and dumping going on. And is that kind of thing going to be protected from that?
That's a great question through you, Mayor, Councillor, to you. The answer to that question is that the blocks that we've identified on the draft plan and the area that we're asking you to rezone to NAP includes not only the feature itself, but the setback from that feature. And just to take that line of protection even further, so the land that would be conveyed to the municipality and the land that will be zoned NAP, there's also a setback from that into the lots that will be developed with houses. I can't remember off the top of my head what the rear yard setback provisions are, but not only does the NAP land include the buffer itself, but there will also be a zoning buffer built in on top of that.
Thank you.
Okay, and any other questions from council? Oh, Keith, go ahead, Deputy Mayor, and then just wait till I finish with my council now, Donald, and then I'll go back to the crowd here. Yeah, go ahead, Keith.
Thank you, Mayor. It's not really a question, it's more of a comment. I think there were some concerns identified in the letter from Mr. Conway regarding the costs that will be uploaded to the township and infrastructure. I don't see that being an issue. 46 homes will all be on private services. I think the tax levies will offset. If anything, it'll help keep our increase per year down for everybody else in Ramara Township. I'm more concerned about environmental, similar to everybody, but I think today we're actually voting on identifying this as natural protection. And I would like to see whether there's signage or some way to fence it off to protect that in some way that doesn't, affect the wildlife. But I'm sure we can work through that process later. But today we are just voting on that zoning. So I would be in favor.
Thank you.
If I could just make one comment to that. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Bell. Yeah, there are mitigation recommendations within the environmental impact study, which stipulate how to delineate the feature itself. Off the top of my head, I can't remember what that is. It's some type of fencing. It wouldn't be a chain link fence. It would be some type of fence or physical barrier that would identify that limit, which then again stops people. The idea is that it stops people from, throwing their lawn waste into that area, for instance.
Okay, any other questions from council? Donald, do you have a follow-up? It's a public meeting? Yes, it is.
Yes, there's one other thing that I'm thinking of, and that is the 75% of the property taxes. If it's being farmed, it's supporting developers owning farmland or other people owning farmland. This is a provincial policy that I asked questions about it, and they're all baffled by that one. We have the likes of down at Duckworth Street in Barrie. Jim Drury was farming the land there, and now it's all built on. And I believe that provincial policy is very discriminatory in that it helps other people owning farmland, so that farmers really, the farmland is priced far beyond what real farmers can afford. So that policy is really a bad discriminatory policy on the part of the province. There could be billions of dollars saved in Ontario if that did not take place. It should be a real professional farmer defined by the Income Tax Act for farming. And so that's just another aspect of what takes place in society today. That's probably something from a way, way back years ago. And yes, the farmland is a commodity, not a resource. And I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Thank you. And not particular to this one, but I actually agree with you 100%. It's something I am working on at county. So I agree with what you're saying. Being a farmer, I understand exactly what he's talking about. Okay, so if I have no further. Oh, anybody else hands up? Not seeing any, nobody else on. Oh, yes, come on up. I need you to come up to the microphone and I will need your address. It is a public meeting. That way we get the proper answer to you. So name and address, please.
My name is Carol Pattenden. I'm at 5004 Highway 12.
Okay.
So my property literally is the backyard to the new property.
Okay, yeah.
If you look at that map, which he's saying is 46 individual properties, 1 and 2 are literally my backyard. Literally behind my house is 1 and 2. You've got the school, that's great. You've got that entrance, the lights are here. The entrance is here, which is coming across from a house. You've got the exit, which is down here, which is literally coming across or close to the school. You are saying, okay, 46 houses, great. You know, they go from this big to a little itty bitty thing, whatever. Okay, if we put, let's say 2 kids per house, that's 92 extra kids onto that school. My kids, both of them went to that school. You all know this. The problem is if we do more than 2, we're looking at 100 kids more to that school. That school cannot expand. It does not have the space. The problem is right now, those kids, a lot of them, I think 4, 5, and 6 are in portables. I think there's like 3 or 4 portables on that property. So how, with an additional 46 homes with, let's say, 2 kids minimum per home, are they going to be able to accommodate those kids? Because they can't. There's just no way that they can accommodate that right now. It's just not possible. As I say, we are literally, our backyard is going to be their front yard, backyard, whatever. We're literally right there. We've already had 2 swans or maybe 4 swans in the temporary lake that's now beside us, because there's a temporary lake in that drainage field. So we have wildlife that does fly in there. We used to have a lot of as they said, the bulrushes and whatever, right on the corner of our lot. And it was great because we had, the ducks, the birds, everything. Now we get nothing. That canal, yes, it goes down and around whatever, but is that going to be affected? Are we going to have the are we going to have issues with, the wildlife not being able to be there when they want to be? Are we going to be able to sustain another 100 kids, in that school? Because they don't have the room, and this,
Yeah.
they don't have the room to be able to expand that school. Are you going to be able to do that? That's going to be the problem. I know it's only an environmental thing right now, but we have to think of those impacts going down the road. That's all.
The school, do we have an answer on that? I actually went to that school and so did my children. So hey, go ahead.
So the school board has been circulated with the plan of subdivision application and they are reviewing it.
Okay.
Yeah, so they've asked for the hydrogeological study to be reviewed, but they will provide a series of conditions. They also get development charges from the houses. And then they would review the school at that point. But if the school couldn't accommodate it, what they can do is they can actually bus those kids to another school if they
But-
have to.
Then that's a problem, because then if you're busing it to another school, you're busing it to Brecken. Brecken's getting to the point where because my grandkids go to Brecken because they couldn't come to Updegrove. It then becomes a school that now has 3 or 4 portables and they cannot expand because they're in town.
Yeah, and the school boards are circulated and they have their opportunity to raise those concerns and bring that planning up to date. So it's not related to the zoning bylaw amendment today, but it is something that is considered in the draft plan approval process. And we have been in conversation with them quite a bit.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Well, if there's nobody else, one more, Don, make it quick.
Well, if they're gonna go ahead with this, these developers should be required to put in the piping for the sewers and the water when they're doing the development. So it's already in the ground, not an after the fact thing. Thank you.
It's a good point. Thank you, Donald. If there's no other questions, then I guess if any person who has not received notice of this meeting wishes to receive notice of the passing of the bylaw, please forward your address and phone number by email to Township Planning Department at planning@ramara.ca. If you do not provide your full address, you may not receive notice. This concludes the public meeting, and any comments from council and the public, if noted, will now be considered before making a decision on the matter. Staff will present a draft bylaw for council consideration. Should council approve the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, members of the public who submitted written or verbal comments and who disagree with the decision may be entitled to appeal the decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If you wish to receive a copy of the notice of decision for this zoning bylaw amendment, please submit your request in writing to the Township Planning Department. And I have a motion here that, hang on, I'm in the bills. I got to scroll back. The council received report BP 10-24 regarding zoning bylaw amendment application Z 7/22, 4836 Muley Point Road as information, and that's subject to any new information and or public comments received. Council directs staff to return the amendment to the next regular council meeting for consideration. Moved by the deputy mayor, second by Councillor Fisher. All in favor? That is carried. And then lastly, I have that the bill number 2024-19 be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed as bylaw. That is the bill bylaw. Moved by Councillor Fisher, second by Councillor Tuyu. All in favor? That is carried. That's the bill for what we just passed, I believe. And then lastly, oh yeah, what was that one? Yes, Dearden Stanton there. And the last one, that bylaw 2024-23, the bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the special council meeting held on the 15th day of April. Yes. Not in this meeting. That's all I have in the public meeting, correct?
The public meeting's terminated, yes, and this bylaw is regarding something else.
Oh, it is. Okay, it wasn't to do with this one. So no, I will go back now. So we're done our public meeting on that property. We now have the bylaw. So any discussion on that bylaw before it passed? That's the Fern Resort parcel, is not off Fern. I apologize, Councilor, to you. Thank you for catching that when I was reading it. So maybe an explanation from, oh, Waleed, you're here. Bring council up to speed on this bylaw. So the Muley Point Road one is done. Thank you. We're back to our regular agenda.
Yes, thank you, through the mayor. We're looking at basically establishing a sewage treatment facility using an approved environmental assessment that was approved approximately 10 years ago. Part of that proposal would be that the municipality own the land that the sewage treatment is on in order to have the ability to expand the system to service future areas.
Yeah, that was part of the original zoning on the Rammer Road, was it not? That any sewage treatment plant eventually will be conveyed over to the township. So if we own the land now they're building, obviously there can't be any debt on the sewer system because it is to be turned over debt-free to the township, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. So as they build, they have to get other financing. They can't mortgage the sewage system treatment plant and then turn around and hand it over to the township with a big mortgage on it. It has to be free and clear. This is one of the ways we ensure that. Go ahead, Councillor, to you.
Thank you, Waleed. Can you clarify exactly what other areas would be feeding into this septic system?
So the current areas that are approved under the environmental assessment are, it's referred to in the environmental assessment as the D1 service area. It goes approximately from Concession Road 12 to the Fern Resort Road, from the lake east to midway between the trail and the next concession over. That's the targeted area that's currently approved.
Yes.
Right, but you had said something about future areas.
Once the municipality has ownership of a servicing facility, it can be expanded subject to other environmental assessments and approvals moving forward.
So it's right now it's from the 12th north.
Correct.
To the casino, basically.
Not all the way to the casino. The area is divided in a few different areas.
Yes.
But currently just up to the Fern Resort Road and potentially including the Fern Resort as well.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Can you explain what do you mean by potentially including Fern Resort?
I can't remember exactly where the delineation is at the Fern Resort Road, if it's how much past the Fern Resort Road it is, but it's in the vicinity of Fern Resort Road down to Concession Road 12.
And is it unusual that we would transfer the land prior to the completion? Like I just think of what I think happened in Lagoon City and Bayshore was that they were all completed before we transferred any land, but can you comment on that?
Absolutely. And that's a good question. There's different ways to approach the achieved result. One method would be that the developer own the land and build the asset, operate the asset for some time and then turn it over. There's another one where the municipality can go upfront, acquire the land, build the asset and share it or charge the developers for it moving forward. In this case, we're looking at a proposal where we could work together in tandem to I guess, take advantage of any synergies we can establish moving a plant forward.
What do you mean by synergies?
The municipality may have access to funds, or we may be able to regulate where the sewage allocation goes to, and then the developer, of course, has the resources to get the plant online. So by working together, we can kind of ensure sustained growth and ensure less financial risk by working together.
But that was part of the original EA. That was the original agreement, would it not? That the land would be turned over to us.
That it would be turned over to us eventually, yes.
So just going back to what we were talking about before with Muley Point, why does one builder have to put the system in ahead of time and the other one can do it with wells and septic systems?
So most of the area south of Highway 12 wasn't part of the master servicing plan in terms of the one that was done for the Rammer Road and Atherley. There's no plan for a sewage system for that particular area that far east. So the settlement area is supposed to kind of expand from the more center of Atherley working east. And that particular study that was done 10 years ago was done just for that particular area that we're discussing.
We did a master servicing plan for the Ramara Road corridor.
Mhm.
And that's why it requires sewer and water. That was part of that plan we did. Holy smokes, now almost 20 years ago.
Correct. Yeah, the municipal one, yes.
So the taxes on this property that this developer currently pays, they disappear once this land's transferred to us. Then
On the 2 acre, like
is it a 2 acre lot? Is that
two
what
or
it
3
is?
acres somewhere? Yeah, two.
So
plus
that
or minus.
disappears, and that's all everything legal about it as far as people walking on our property and all that. You've got all that covered off.
Well, it becomes municipal property and falls under all
But
the
they've got
rules
their
and
workers
regulations.
on there all the time, and right.
That's part of the
They
development
will be
agreement.
maintaining the system, not us.
Operating and maintaining, yes, until such time that the agreement would dictate a turnover.
Okay. And was there a value on this, or is it just dollar?
It's just a minimal amount. It's basically turned over for consideration.
Okay. Thank you.
And Councillor to you.
So where is the sewage actually going to end up going?
The treated sewage,
Yes.
Lake Couchiching.
But not directly. It goes into the wetland.
Correct. Yeah.
Go ahead. Dan.
Indirectly to Lake Couchiching.
Okay. The other question I have is, what was it? Oh, yeah, regarding the Conservation Authority boundary. I understand this area is just outside of the Lake Simcoe Regional Conservation Authority boundary. Would this type of system be permitted if it were within the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority boundary?
I don't know about the boundary, but the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority watershed does not permit any new sewage discharge into Lake Simcoe via the LSPP. Correct. Yes.
Yeah. That's actually the trouble we're having with the Lake Simcoe Regional Airport. We can't put a treatment system in because it's within the watershed of the, it's all that potential development, and we're having trouble figuring out how we're going to deal with the sewage. Yeah. So you would think it'd be far enough away. It's still within the watershed.
Yeah, I just find it amazing that you can dump sewage into Couchiching with all the phosphorus levels and that, and you can't do it in Simcoe, and it's basically it's the same water. So we're actually Simcoe flows.
I think on one of our original plans, we looked at, the water plant would be where our fire hall is an athlete. We would draw out a Simcoe and then discharge into Couchiching is what the original plan for the area was, right? But, that's it's developer driven and they're the ones paying the bill. So that's why it's going this route. And this, again, this is concession 12 north. This doesn't come into the village of Atherley.
Correct.
My computer just shut down, but I don't think somebody might have to read me the. I want a motion. I hope this one didn't die like my last one did last week. They just gave me a new computer. Okay, any other questions on the bylaw? Councillor to you.
Would supporting this conveyance, or not supporting it, I guess, preclude having all those different areas discharging into the lake? Like if we voted to not support this conveyance, would that mean that this would not be the destination sewage system for south of the casino to Atherley?
If we didn't support it, we wouldn't be able to, it would be just done for the one development then. We wouldn't be able to expand it to take in the other land.
Any of the developers within that specified area that were part of the first study completed would still be able to proceed with it. We wouldn't be able to allocate any of those resources outside of that area. It would be developer owned and operated, and the municipality would essentially assume the responsibility of the plan.
Councillor Fisher.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Waleed, what I think I'm hearing is right now, because, not right now, if we were to do it this way, then there is the option to expand that system rather than having all the developers have multiple systems to service their own areas. That this would solve the solution to only having one sewage treatment plant as opposed to multiple.
Correct. 20 years ago, when this was looked at originally, it was decided that maybe 5 separate systems would be good to service the different areas within Ramara Road and Atherley. Learning from what we see in other municipalities, in our own municipality, more systems are just more costly. So trying to consolidate into one larger, more effective system would be in the benefit of the municipality.
I remember the first study, it was a minimum of 4, and then a 5th one if you wanted to do the village of Atherley. So it would be 5 sewage treatment plants we'd be maintaining instead of 1. Follow up, Counselor Fisher, and then Counselor Tuohy.
Thank you. So you believe, or your experience would just because of your verbiage that was used, you would feel that one main system would be more efficient than multiple small systems.
It's without question more effective to have one large system than
And I
multiple
mean,
units.
for environmentally, not just financially.
Environmentally, financially, operationally, from every aspect, yes. Even
Thank you.
construction, yes.
Counselor Tuohy.
So if there were the extra 4 or 5 systems, would they also be discharging into the lake?
They would, yes.
Okay.
And they'd be overlapping different intake zones as well. This actually it protects the other intakes that could be coming in for other developments. Should we choose not to have an actual consolidated water plant, it would be still, other people could still draw from the lake without issue.
I just have
Yes.
a follow-up. So that would be the effluent going into the lake. What about this solid septage material? Where would that go?
That would be subject to normal operating procedures that are regulated by the MOECP.
Counselor Snodge.
How many homes are going into this subdivision, or what are they, timeshare or whatever?
The initial development, it's approximately 1,700 from what I recall at full build out.
1,700
units, yes.
And this land that we're acquiring or being conveyed to us is going to be able to handle all that 1,700 units? That sounds very high to me.
Yeah, and more, and quite a bit more through expansion, but it could handle the entire area based on the
I'm just
density.
talking about the developer currently.
Yep.
How many units is he building?
Well, they're not building anything. They haven't even applied for a site plan agreement yet, but their proposal is for approximately 1,700 units at full build out.
I guess one of my concerns is that, that whole Ramara corridor, I hate the fact that we could have a system all ready to go, which is going to allow for more development to come in there so quickly without having a total plan in place. But I guess I'm still confused. So if it's 1,700 units that are there, how big of a plant can this? How many can be serviced by this sewage plant? How many units?
With like the plant now?
Final build out?
The final build out?
8,000, wasn't it?
Yeah, it would be quite
And this
a bit
is
more
on
than
2
that.
acres of land.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. But again, nobody's proposing that at the moment. The one developer saying 1,700. But
yeah, and I believe
the whole land is like the whole destination commercial is laid out for development. The whole
area
is
is planned, and the densities are planned, the areas are planned, the discharge is all planned to go to the lake. It's just now going through one pipe instead of 4 or 5.
So why are they constructing this facility there now when they don't have any plans and haven't even come to us with the specifics of the, what you call it, site development plan for that property? I mean,
they're inevitably it's going to happen because when they come in for their site plan agreement and they go through the process, they're going to have to provide some kind of support for their sewage discharge and their water. They're going to need that anyway. So if they do it now or they do it after, it's part of the process for getting their site plan agreement. They have to show where the sewage is going to go. In this case, it's just more effective to have a plant than a giant septic system.
Yeah, I'm just using common sense. And if I was building something, the first thing I do is make sure that I can put up the 1,700 homes before I build a sewage treatment plant.
The environmental assessment's been done for the property. The traffic studies have been done for the property. Most of the studies have been done. They're just preparing all their studies and then doing the application.
So
when
this
they have
sewage treatment
place.
plant there is going to be exact or similar to the sewage treatment plant that they were trying to get in place with Bayshore, which was denied by Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority. Or the province,
I'm not familiar with what Bayshore was proposing.
Well, a
sewage treatment plant.
Well, a tertiary system that discharges into the lake.
Yes.
It's going to be a modular plant. So once the capacity runs out in the plant, you essentially put on a second module and it doubles the capacity of the plant. So it's a newer style system, which has been used in Ontario. Brockville's used it. There's been a few that have been using it. It's a modular plant that is expandable. So you start with only what you need. And then as development comes in, you expand the modules to it. So
And has there been any work done to see if that facility can be operated and charge the residents approximately the same amount that they're being charged now in Ramara, or is this going to cause the rates to go up or cause the rates to come down?
the rates essentially will stay the same. They are still doing more studies on exactly what the plants are. The plants to Ontario are still new. I believe they've been here 10, 15 years.
Sorry, the what?
The plants, the sewage treatment plants. But outside of Canada, down in the States, down in South America and all that, they're common. It's the plants that they're using down there. It's a rate.
Rotating bin.
It's a rotating bin that goes within the plants that separates the solids, the liquids, and then it's processed within essentially a sea can that's sized like a sea can, and then discharge comes out the side. So it's very small compared to your typical sewage treatment plant. So to be able to put it on a 2 acre, 3 acre lot, there's going to be room to spare within that property.
Thank you.
Councillor to you.
Given that the discharge is upstream from the Rama First Nation community, have we consulted with Rama?
Rama was consulted during the original EA. When we advertised it in the paper as for public consultation and put the consultant as the receiving body, they, from what I understand from the consultant, they're in extensive talks with each other. They're having a dialogue and going over the reviews.
Any other questions or? Councillor to you. Yeah, I'll go back to Dana and then you again, Dave.
I was saying what we're approving then is just a transfer of the land. That's it.
Today, it's just the transfer of our land.
Thank you.
Dana? Again, it's just a transfer of the land. They haven't brought the plan of subdivision forward. However, they do have, the land is zoned for it, much like the one we were dealing with this morning.
Correct.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, we had a talk a while ago about how the effluent is, going to be treated so that it's, I think you had said that it would be cleaner than the actual water that's in the lake right now. The thing that I'm concerned about is that it can't clean is, I think we talked about pharmaceuticals. And also I have worries about the temperature being a bit higher just by virtue of the fact that it's effluent. And those things can't be combated by this treatment plant.
I can't speak to the specifics of the actual process for treatment. There is going to be membrane filters on it also eventually, so pharmaceuticals would typically be caught by that, but I don't know what percentage, of course. In terms of the temperature, Lake Couchiching is a lake almost like a river. The outflow from Lake Simcoe and the outflow into the Trent Severn keeps the water flowing quite a bit, so there would be no large increase in the temperature of the water in the lake just because of its flow characteristics. They did touch on that a little bit in the EA, but it didn't go into too much detail of what the expected temperature would be. The Department of Fisheries and Oceans did review it at the time, and it did meet the requirements at that time. I don't see any adverse effects on the fish if they were involved.
Okay, any other questions? So I did have a mover and a seconder, so all in favor? Opposed? One opposed, okay. With that, I think now that concludes our meeting today. So the bylaw 2024-23, the bylaw confirmed the proceedings of the special council meeting held on the 15th day of April 2024 be considered read a first, second, and third time and finally passed. Before I go, who moved my last motion? I will actually, because Councillor Tuyu is not in support, so I'm going to pull you off as the seconder for that motion. Deputy Mayor, you'll second the last motion. Call the vote again. I just started thinking, wait a minute, you moved it. So, so all in favor again? And opposed, we have one. Okay, that deals with that motion. So the adjournment, moved by Councillor Tuyu, second by Councillor Fisher, all in favor. That is carried. You have no objections with the adjournment, I would assume. All right. Thank you, everybody.